You're welcome back. You're still watching TVC Breakfast. Now, across Nigeria, conversations on gender equality are reshaping the workplace. From corporate offices to small enterprises, women continue to demonstrate excellence, innovation, and leadership. Yet, changes remain from unequal pay to limited access to decision-making roles. Some studies have shown that when women and men work on equal terms, businesses thrive, creativity expands, and the economy grows stronger. As Nigeria positions itself for a competitive future, the question is clear. How can policies, institutions, and employers ensure that inclusion is not just a promise, but a practice? Now, joining us for this conversation is Fair Start Campaign Validator, founder, Women in Leadership Advancement Network Global, Abosede George. Welcome to the show, Abosede. Lady in blue, looking beautiful. Welcome, welcome.
Really great to be here.
Beautiful to have you here. And this is a fantastic topic because this is one that hits close to home. Because I always say that what a man can do, a woman can certainly do better. And when I say it, the men on the table are like, hey, why are you saying it? But I know, when I say it, they're always like, why is she saying it? But in workplaces, oftentimes, and I'm going to be realistic with this conversation as possible, in workplaces, most of the times, we see that, a man and a woman, they're doing like the same thing, but oftentimes you see that more respect is accorded to the man. I'm sorry, but I'm speaking the fact here. More respect is accorded to the man, or the man is rather taking a higher pay than the woman. We've seen it oftentimes, and as women, we now have to fight harder, to gain our spots, to gain our place. That we are here, we can do it, because over a period of time, we've seen how powerful women are. When you give a woman a chance and she shows herself, you see how she will move mountains. And I'm an example to that. When you give me a job, I'm making sure that I do it really well. Yeah. I'm not even trying to compete with my counterpart, but just making sure that I stamp my place as a woman in power. I just want you to take me through it. You are a woman advocate. You've been doing a fantastic job over a period of time. How has this been like, and how are we trying to change this narrative?
Thank you so much. I think, first of all, what I would say about women leading alongside men is that actually the evidence doesn't show us that necessarily men lead better than women or women lead better than men, but it actually shows us that men and women should be leading alongside each other. And to your point, that's not what is happening. In most spaces in the corporate sector, it is male dominated. So what the data shows us in this recent report that we are, the McKinsey Women in the Workplace report that we're looking at, is that when it's entry level, only 1 in 3 entry level people are women.
Yeah.
Only 1 in 3. So I want you to imagine this with me, that we're about to start a race, right? And then we're already disadvantaged because only 1 in 3 are women. But guess what? As we go on this race, the women have hurdles to jump, but the men have a straight race.
Yeah.
That's the picture, really, right? And so what you find is, as we begin this race, right, and the woman is going over a hurdle, the man is racing straight through because there is no hurdle in front of him. And this looks different, to your point, right? It's stereotypes, it's disparities, it's pay gaps, it's the fact that there's bias in promotion, right? You've gone on maternity leave after working for 9 months. So let's say you worked for 9 months in the year, and then you take your maternity leave, and then they do appraisals. And instead of appraising you for all the amazing work that you did, unfortunately, it's like you were not around. And so we continue. But then what we see is that between entry level and leadership positions, there's a 28% drop.
Oh my.
So only 28% actually get into leadership positions from the people who started. And as you know, I don't know if you've ever heard about the motherhood punishment, right? Which is like, once you take that maternity leave, it's almost like you're working yourself out of a job, because our workplaces are not designed to support women to thrive, to become leaders. So these hurdles exist, and that's what we're contending with. And what I would say as we continue this conversation is, regardless of who the stakeholder is, it has to be intentional. Women's leadership inclusion doesn't just happen. So we have to have the right processes, the right policies, and the right environment to ensure that we have the pipeline that actually takes women from entry level, mid-career level, and into leadership.
Okay, so some of the things that you said, backed up by data, but then there is one thing about data, there's another thing about reality.
This is true.
Sometimes some advocacies for womanhood saying the women are being marginalized when it comes to parity, with talking about gender parity. But in my life, I've been having things to do with women at different levels, and my experience is showing otherwise. Maybe because of the industry that I found myself. Yeah. Because, for instance, if you talk about this organization, it's been ably run by women from top to bottom. So much so that we have the Fab Five or Fantastic Five. Even though some are already stepping out, and I believe that women will still come in. So how do we now position? How do we place it? If you look at the National Assembly, they're also saying that we want 25% affirmative, 35% affirmative action, so much so that we need women representation. What exactly do you think must change, and how should we begin this conversation to ensure that this change that you talk about
really
is materialized here?
I think that's brilliant, and I just wanted to sort of acknowledge that sometimes you might grow up in a household where your father is supportive. The gender roles are not, the girls cook and the boys.
In my family, the male are in the minority.
Exactly. And sometimes that's the case, and it's amazing, but you're in the minority in that experience. We were all socialized from our families to our religious institutions to our educational institutions, and predominantly male privilege exists, and that's what we call patriarchy. But let's go to the solutions, because I agree with you that we want to be looking forward. We have seen a really, really phenomenal case study in the financial services industry, where they came up with the Nigeria Sustainable Banking Principles that recommended a minimum of 35% women on boards and women in executive leadership. This was in the days of Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, when he was central bank governor, and that was in 2012. Now we're sitting here in 2025, 13 years later. You and I can count at least 10 female bank MDs. We have seen female women chair boards of banks. That is a really good case study of what we should be doing. So as part of the Women in Leadership Coalition that has organizations like mine, which is WILAN, WISCA, WIMBIS, and the Nigeria Governors Forum, we are saying our national gender policy since 2006 made recommendation for this minimum 35% representation, whether it's in state cabinets, federal cabinets, and also in executive leadership, not just in financial institutions, because if you look across board in corporate sector, so if you go to the NGX, right, a Nigerian Stock Exchange, top 30 companies, how many women are represented on the board and leadership? We're still dancing around the 30% number, and we need that to go up. I think the final piece of what I would share is you need to make the environment conducive for women. Because the data also shows us that when women get into leadership, they only spend a year and they're out. It means that that place is not conducive. It becomes a pressure cooker. Another thing that the evidence shows us is they always bring women into crisis situations. And once she solves the crisis, it's called the glass cliff. So not the glass ceiling now. It's the cliff, right? When she solves the problem, then they'll be like, thank you so much. It was nice to have you. See you later. And then they bring a man. So the final thing that we need to do is that we need to make the environment conducive. How do we do that? With policies like maternity leave, make it fully paid for a minimum of 16 weeks, right? And also give paternity leave to the man, right? Because it's parental leave. We should all be present for a newborn child. So progressive policies like that, having women's networks so that we can provide mentorship and sponsorship for women. Men know how to do that very well. You know, they'll be like, oh yeah, I know somebody who can do that.
Boys
women,
club.
that's right. Absolutely. We need to have a girls club too. Nobody says that we cannot do that. So I think the reform and the change needs to be happening at different levels. At the individual level, where we're supporting women to upskill. At the organizational level, where we're having and building the right policies and reforms for safe space for women to thrive. And at the societal level, where we need to be shifting our mindsets around how we support women.
Absolutely. I will say I'm starting a girls' club with you right now. Well, let's do it. Let's do it. But I will say, you rightly mentioned the hurdles that women face from entry level all the way up to leadership. What I will say is this: I'm going to be happy about this, and I'm going to say, let's say we do get to leadership positions, right? How do we ensure that we are not just, there's a lot of tokenism, that we're not just seeing, because a lot of times women are given leadership positions, but it's very symbolic, right, and metaphoric, without actually us being given the chance to wield proper influence.
I love it. And power.
Yeah, and power, and the ability to move things around and actually make a change. Yeah. So how do we, because if the men are not going to give it to us, if you're addressing women right now, how do we show that we are not just tokens?
No, we are
regardless
not.
of the culture that is around us.
So can I say first that we need to be at the table? That's the first step.
That's right.
We need to be at the table.
Yeah.
And as they say, there's a popular, I don't know where it comes from, but if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, right? Because you will be a line item, right? And they will discuss about you, but you wouldn't be at that table.
Make decisions for you.
Absolutely. So why I say that is, I actually think there's a level where presence is important.
Elaborate, please.
So we call it tokenism, but actually we are half the population of this country. So just being present at the table is enough. And then to your point, we need to then make space for them to have agency, power to use their voice and to contribute to decision making. But I don't want us to, we always belittle the fact that you are at the table, and I don't want us to do that. Should I tell you why? Because the National Assembly is predominantly filled with men, some whom we've never heard from.
Absolutely.
However, they are in some way, shape or form influencing what happens in that assembly. So just imagine a National Assembly that has half the population of that chamber as women. Not everyone will speak, but you know that they will represent their people.
Absolutely.
Amazing. But I want to go to something that women don't like to touch.
Yes.
I'm a very realistic person.
Yes.
And oftentimes,
she's going there.
Women
support
women. Of course. Oftentimes, when we give these women the opportunity, we put them in high places, we see what women have done to women. Sometimes we have said we are our own problem. The way the men gather around to support each other, when it comes to women, they're looking, what is she wearing? I'm a realistic person. Let's bring it to the table. As women, as we're seeking that we want to get on top as well, we ourselves, we need to do better with loving each other and supporting each other.
So should I tell you what has happened? I think we need to be, I always say doing this work, I'm now an extender of grace. I extend grace.
I love it.
Freely. Because you underestimate the power of conditioning. You have been told all your life not to speak. You should be seen and not heard. And then all of a sudden, they give you space and you expect that to change. You have been told all your life that your kind doesn't belong in these spaces. So when we see our kind, we question them. When your friend comes to tell you, I want to run for office, you start to ask them, why? Don't you have something else to do? Why must you do it? It is the internalized bias that we have of ourselves. So I want us to extend grace. Even women supporting women, we have not supported each other long enough to have a lot of reference points on how we support women. But men have built boys' clubs and they have a process.
And the patriarchy has told us that there's not enough space for you guys.
I want to quickly, touch on, because you've spoken beautifully, and I think even some women that are feeling, we can't do anything to, side by side men. You've actually, motivated them. But what exactly is WIL doing to, especially in terms of coalition, to ensure that, the women are right there on the table, not sitting directly, literally on the table, but they're, making decisions alongside those who call the shots.
Absolutely. So for the Women in Leadership Coalition, our core mandate is around advocating for some of these things that I've just highlighted. We know that there are people, look, to be honest, we just need political will. Look at the Nigeria Governors Forum. It is currently chaired by the governor of Kwara. He has done it in his state. He has demonstrated. His cabinet is 50-50. We have the youngest elected female state lawmaker from Kwara State. So these things are happening, political will. So we're advocating to the leaders who have the influence over these positions to say, when women lead alongside men, we all benefit. So that's what we're doing. We are also going to corporate organizations and saying, can you make sure that you have the right policies in place? It's not just going to happen, because what the data also shows is that a lot of people talk a good talk, but not a lot of people take action. And the time for action is now. We already know the benefits for when women lead. The data is overwhelming, whether it's educational outcomes, health outcomes, economic empowerment, or development. It shows us that when women lead alongside, because look at it, it's different perspectives at the table. And that's why, like you said, we're not competing, we're collaborating, because we bring unique perspectives to the table.
Let's hold hands.
Thank you so much. If there was time, there's a lot to talk about with you, but I'm sure we'll definitely talk after set.
Thank you so much.
You're doing a fantastic job.
Great to be here. Thank you so much for having us.
You know, and just like she rightfully said, your fellow woman is your sister. It's not about competition. The sky is big enough for everybody to shine. So if you're a woman and you're watching us this morning, I want you to tell yourself that I will love my fellow woman and I will make sure that we get to the top together. Well, coming up on TVC Breakfast, what happens when man's creativity merges with artificial intelligence? We will discuss this just after the break. Don't go anywhere.